Hi folks, welcome to my webinar for you. It's called Reclaiming Your You Time. This is Karen from Guiding Works International Business Coaching, and I am so thrilled to share tips with you today on time management that I have gathered over the years and can give you in less than 1 hour. And my intention is to save you lots of time that you can use that precious time for you, for yourself. I am here in Hong Kong. I'm overlooking the bay. It's absolutely gorgeous. I can see a wedding procession. She is beautiful too. Down below me with her gals that are taking care of her. Anyway, back to business here for you. I can see all of you coming in to this webinar from all over the world, and I'm just so thrilled to be able to serve you in this way. At the very end of this call, I will be letting you know about an opportunity with me that's coming up. And in the meantime, of course, you are free to opt into that or out. But in the meantime, I have so many valuable tips to share with you and hope that you garner great information from all of those. So the first one about time management that I would love to share is about not checking your emails first thing in the morning. This has been sort of a guilty secret of mine, if you will, over the years. And recently I read this great article in Social Marketing Tribe by Andrea Ayers talking about how it's not productive. So I thought, oh, yay, I'm not the only one doing this. And it's just so effective for me. Excuse me, just one second. Anyway, for me, you can check for your own time and see which is the most creative for you. When I wake up first thing in the morning, that's my most creative time. That's my best time for thinking. And so I reserve that. I reserve that for myself. I reserve that for deep thinking for my business, and we'll get into that later. But really checking emails is somebody else's to-do list. So it's uber productive to save your emails. For me, when it's not as pressured a time in the day, maybe later in the afternoon, and that's super helpful. Wow. So for all of you just joining us right now, this is Karen at Guiding Works International Business Coaching. Welcome to this call. This webinar is about time management, and we are thrilled to have you here. We've just been talking about that checking emails first thing in the morning is not effective, and you will increase your productivity immediately. Give it a try. Give it a try for at least one solid week, and then let me know. Let me know how that goes for you. The second thing that I have here for you gets a little bit more in depth, and it will take you some investment of time to do this, but I promise you, if you will give yourself that space, give yourself that time, that you will end up saving a lot of time by doing this one practice. Figure out, even if you only take 15 minutes, say 3 times, okay? 15 minutes 3 times. You can do it 15 minutes once, and then as the days roll by, you might find yourself reflecting upon your choices and maybe tweaking it a little bit. But the next thing to do is to really figure out what your big rocks or projects are in life. What is your biggest priority? And write them down. It's always helpful to write things down. So go ahead and write down whether that's going to be health, family, your spiritual practice, work. It's likely that you have those on your list. It's likely that you have even more on your list. So go ahead, get those out of your head onto a sheet of paper. I'm going to take a sip of water and give you a minute to do that. Okay, so go ahead and at least jot some of those down. Take a good solid 15 minutes to reflect on those, really think about it, and go for those priorities. Okay, those are going to be uber important in what we're going to be talking about going forward. Once you have your priorities, you really need to figure out which are your top ones, which ones you're going to work on. I'd like to tell you a little story. This is by one of my favorite mentors, Stephen Covey. He tells it like this. So, let's take a deep breath. Let's go for a walk on the beach together. And pretend that you have a sand pail in your hand. That sand pail represents your day. Can represent bigger periods of time as well, but for now, let's say that it represents your day. Now you're looking out at the ocean like I'm looking out at the Hong Kong Bay right here, and you're thinking about, wow, look at all my priorities. You know, it's not just work in my life, although work can be very joyful. It's about spending time with my family. I'm so grateful to be here with my daughter, with my grandson, with my son-in-law. And think about all those different things that you want to put into that bucket of time. Now, you're going to have big rocks. Just visualize with me, big rocks that are sitting next to you. I want those to represent for you your big projects, things that you really love to do. For me, my family is so important. That's a very important chunk of my time, and I want it to stay there. And I also have my work, which I love. I have my spiritual practice, which I love. And I have my health, which is very important for me to take care of, that I do love as well. Now, I won't lie to you, I'm not always as crazy about it when I'm in the gym lifting weights or trying to work out on that treadmill or elliptical machine, but I know that it makes me feel wonderful, and so it's a big priority in my life, and I make time for it. So think about taking those big rocks and putting them first into that sand pail that represents your time. If you will put those big rocks on first, you will find that there's room in there still. Lots of room that you can put in the little pebbles, which represent the smaller things that we do, like the emails, or maybe we've got to go to the grocery store, whatever your list of errands happen to be. If you have those big rocks in there first, and then put in those smaller pebbles, you will find that those big projects actually get done, which is so important, and you'll feel so good about that. So that is our tip number 2. So to review for those folks who are just coming on now, our tip number 1 for extreme productivity and saving your time is not to check your emails first thing in the morning. Our tip number 2 is to go ahead and figure out what your priorities are, your work-life balance, if you will, and to always put those big projects, those big rocks in your sand pail first. Imagine if you did it the other way. What if you put in a lot of it? I know I've certainly have tons of experience doing this. What if you say, okay, I've got this long to-do list, and you start just rushing and putting in all those small little pebbles first? What happens? What happens for you? For me, I run out of steam. I'm like, okay, it's late afternoon. Now, honestly, I really don't feel like putting those big rocks in. I'm ready to rest. So that will be so much more important for you. Time to take a deep breath again. Time to enjoy. So just imagine with me for a second. Just come visit with me over here. Come to Hong Kong. Look out the bay. What would you do if you had more time? What would you do every day? I want you to put some comments in that chat box and tell me. I'm going to pause for a few minutes, give you a minute to write. Okay, while you're writing, I'm going to tell you a story about a client of mine. Let's call her Sarah for today. Sarah came to me, and she's such a bright woman. Had actually a very high-paying job already. Had a little girl, had a child. And still, even with all that abundance, something was missing for her in her life that she came to me and we worked on time management together. What was missing for her was that she was really missing time with herself. She's such a beautiful giver. She gave great things to her family, great things to her daughter. She took exquisite care of her health. She's even a Pilates instructor. Maybe you can relate. Is this something that you have felt before? You're giving to all those other people around you. How about time for you? So by the end of our session together, she told me she really wanted to come up with her own business. And she had some wonderful ideas. But she just didn't know how on earth she was going to make any time for that in her day. She told me her days were completely full. Between taking care of her husband, taking care of her daughter, those hours were gobbled up. So we went through a process, which if you work with me individually, you're welcome to do. Or if you take me up on this offer, I'm going to give you at the end of the call, you're welcome to do. She really discovered that there was a way to create nice chunks of time. She ended up with a good, by the time we went through literally every single day of her week, almost hour by hour, and at the end of our time together, had discovered a way for her to have a great chunk of time just for her to work on her business. So know that it is possible. Okay, we are moving on to tip number 3. This is again by one of my favorite authors, Stephen Covey, of 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. You have those rocks, right? You've done the homework, you've taken a couple of minutes, and I know you'll have more time after the webinar to do it. But you have your priorities. You have your things that you do on a day-to-day basis. It's a wonderful idea, at least for one day. If you can do it for 3 or 4, it will be even more beneficial. It's a wonderful idea to actually track your time like you track your money. What do you do the first hour of the day? How about the second one? What do you wish you didn't have to do? What do you do that you don't need to do? Stephen Covey divides it up like this. He calls it urgent, important, not important, and not urgent. Okay, I'm going to get my water again. I want you to put that down on a piece of paper. Those 4 things. Urgent, important, not important, and not urgent. I'm going to give you 30 seconds. Okay, so now write down in your urgent category, of course you can fill this in more later, write down what you experience as urgent right now. Write down what you experience as important. Do your best to fill in that category that says not important. I know we all have them. That's really going to be your magic bullet to find that extra time for you. And then you're going to find things that are not urgent. Here's a catch. Often we say, and yes, I have too before, okay, going to the gym today, is that urgent? No, that's not urgent. But is it important? Yes, it's very important to take care of my health. So you will find that there are some categories. I mean, for me, meditating an hour in the beginning of the day is very important. It's not urgent. And I can find ways around it. There are days, of course, where that doesn't happen. That's okay. But Stephen Covey's point is to make sure that you're really focusing your attention on those items that are important. And here's another thing. Make sure that those important things don't fall into your urgent category. What if you don't take care of your health? All of a sudden, that could become an urgent situation. That's what he's referring to. So there's your tip number 3 on effective time management. The next thing to do, and this is tip number 4, is to really figure out only 3 biggest priorities at the most for our daily schedule. I love to think about those the night before I go to sleep, and I use a calendar. Also think about those first thing the morning when you get up. Really, what are my biggest priorities today? That way, if you focus on those biggest priorities, by the end of the day, you will feel satisfied. I can almost just guarantee it for you because they're your priorities. Even if you get through only item number 1, you're going to feel so happy and you're going to see that you're really starting to put those rocks into that bucket of time for yourself. Those projects are really going to get knocked off. Sometimes those projects look so giant, so overwhelming even. Can you think of one that might be that way for you? Okay, here's the step. To go ahead and break those projects, those big projects, into very small, doable steps. Here's where I'd like to introduce you to another mentor of mine. Check her out if you haven't already. Her name is Fly Lady. Yes, FLYLADY. And she has a great website, flylady.net. I haven't really looked at her emails for years, but I can tell you that her emails have made such a huge impact on my life that I can almost hear her voice in my head every day. Imagine that. And she talks about taking baby steps. She says we can do anything we want to do for at least 15 minutes a day. And you'll find if you break your projects into very small, doable steps, that will take out the overwhelm. Okay, I can hear my grandson waking up in the other room. All right, so remember to be very, very, very kind to yourself and break those projects into uber small steps. Make sure they're doable for you. Okay, so those are our 4 tips that I promised you. The first one is to check emails later in the day. Save that precious morning time for something that you really love to do and want to do. The second tip is to establish that work-life balance. Think about that sand pail going to the beach. What are your rocks? What is your priority? Health, family, spiritual work? You can do it all, but only one thing at a time. Point number 3 is divide those things up that you need to do into urgent, important, not important, and not urgent. And that will help a ton. And point number 4 is to take those 3 biggest priorities for your daily schedule and break them up into very small baby steps, as Fly Lady calls them. Promise that will take the overwhelm out. We'll be coming up to questions in a moment here, so take another sip of water here. Please make sure you're typing in any questions you have into that chat box. Okay, great. I can see some of those coming in right now. Awesome. Totally awesome. We'll get there in just a second for you. So, our bonus tip, I did want to give you at least one more tip, and this is that we are creators of our own time. If you take a look at your life from a bird's eye point of view, you really can step back a little bit. Take those priorities into your head, into your heart, and know that you're creators of your own time, particularly those entrepreneurs of you out there who are listening, and the human beings out there who are listening. Remember that you are creators of your own time. Does that mean that we don't have obligations? Of course not. Of course not. But we do choose what our priorities are and where we want to focus our time. So I encourage you to make time for contemplation. Some of the greatest minds out there, Napoleon Hill, they've all said that was one of their secrets to success, is that they made time for contemplation. Gay Hendricks says the same thing in his book, The Big Leap. And he says, too, we are creators of our own time. Make sure you get enough sleep. It does honestly restore your brain cells. There is so much scientific, chemical evidence that sleep is uber important. So we don't have to go, do all the time. It's really important that we make time to have fun, to have joy in our lives. Get enough sleep. And that will help you to get out of the guilt cycle. Once you realize you're creator of your own time, you've written down your priorities, you've figured out what's urgent, what's important, what's not important, what you can get rid of. That's how you get out of the guilt cycle. Take 3 things that you want to accomplish today and make sure that you do one of those. So now I'm going to open this up for questions, any questions that may come in, and I'm happy to answer them.